And he was nodding, he said, you know, like because he was prepared. But at one point, I said to Chris, at one point, this needs to, the focus needs to shift. Because if linguistic citizenship is for historically marginalized people, is to be attained, there needs to be a shift towards linguistic justice and language activism. I couldn't find it in the community of social linguists. I found it in the community of hip-hop artists, through Afrikaaps, through Kaaps language activism. It gave us the language, it gave me the language, but it also gave me the theory to advance a social approach to multilingualism. And a few years ago, a bunch of my friends, Adam included, Emil with the big hair, at the bottom here, Samuel Ali from Stanford, now at UCLA, we began the Hill Hood Hip Hop Lecture Series. And this is us at the top with Grandmaster DJ Reddy D and his wife and my wife on the other end. We ran the Hill Hood Lecture Series for a few years and then produced the book Never Again, which is obviously pulled from Nelson Mandela's phrase, Never Again. And it focuses on hip-hop art and activism and education in post-apartheid South Africa. It's the one book I'm very proud of because it only has 3 academics in it. Myself, Adam, and I think Sunny, somebody else was academic. But the rest are all hip-hop artists that who were trained to write for the book. The lesson, I think the initial lesson that we got from there was, okay, we produced a book that probably nobody's going to read. It's going to be on the bookshelf. Because I saw the stats from HSR's request the other day. I have 300 copies of a book. Book of Sun. But I think it informed us about something that we needed to do something else. We needed to start seriously thinking about empowering Kaaps speakers. And one of the first steps we took, or the next steps rather, was to codify. We said, okay, fine, if there's going to be respect, we have to set down the rules of the language. We have to produce a dictionary, maybe a grammar too. But then what we discovered was, you know, there's something important about Kaaps, and it's the history. It's incomplete. Can we learn something from it if we go into history? Can we go dig in the archive, into the library where all the lies are buried? Good, you got that. So the first question is, what could we learn about the multilingualism of Kaaps speakers through early Kaaps, from the 1500s, 1600s, the 1700s, and the 1800s? Because somebody, or not somebody, that people define as a variety of Afrikaans. Is it really a variety of Afrikaans? Well, it's important for us, we thought, to start maybe here. And this is Jan van Riebeek's, from his diary, writes to the year 17, that he wants to be the person to come to the Cape, to colonize the land, the people, with the Dutch religion and the Dutch language. Now it's written in 17th century Dutch, so we don't need to read the Dutch. But this is his thought, and he wanted to really come here. And well, of course, he had. But the black indicates to you that they already had, the colonialists already had a sense of the linguistic repertoire of who they want to enslave. And it was a very limited understanding of linguistic repertoire. It was based on advancing colonial languages. And when you read the history of early Kaaps and you try to get a sense of stitch it together, you come to figures like the little girl named Ava. Now most of you don't know Ava. You should know her by name Kertoa. And Kertoa was the translator, and she was the figure that connected her own community to the colonialists. But here, Jan van Riebeek, he was very observant. This is from his diary. He writes from his diary this observation of Kaaps. And he also in his diary makes observations about the linguistic repertoire of Kaaps. Also he speaks good Dutch. Dutch is very, very good. But Kaaps spoke Low and High Portuguese and Dutch. Yes, he's talking about complaining about Duman, who's lying, and Jan van Riebeeck uses the word suba. Suba is not an Afrikaans word, it's not a Dutch word, it's an Indonesian, old Indonesian word, and it refers to originally a jacket. It's extremely fascinating finding that we started to dig up, because we were told that there's nothing to see here, which we found in 1 week in the archive. Quite a lot to see there. It's very interesting when you study early Kaaps and you move from the 1600s to the 1700s. Abu Bakr Effendi arrives in the 1800s. Abu Bakr Effendi is acclaimed for writing phonetic Afrikaans in Arabic script. That's pretty much it. But if you dig and you look further, Effendi tried to make sense of the Cape Dutch being spoken in Burqa by the Muslims. Now, when he came here, he didn't understand it properly. And I always think about this. If he had arrived maybe just 5 years earlier, he would have heard the term Kaaps being used all around the Cape. Because what he wrote down, especially in introducing his instructions on Islamic rituals, the Bible of Deen, looks awfully familiar when you read it. Any Kaaps speaker will be able to understand some of the words being written here. This is from his Cape Dutch introduction to the Bible of Deen. When we discovered this, we thought, wow, what Kaaps speaker used the word viti? Even though there are some anomalies like old distinctions in the sounds, what he tried to write down was exactly what those speakers were saying in the book. So it already existed in the early 1800s, way before Afrikaans received its label. It's righteous is well documented to represent the linguistic repertoires of early Kaaps speakers. And then, of course, arriving and digging through these archives in 1844, there was a debate about whether the Afrikaners were speaking Boer Kaaps. It gives you an indication that everybody was speaking Kaaps. It was all around. It's the following. It's an African language formed out of a slave lingua franca. It was first used by the indigenous and the enslaved populations of the day. Its linguistic structure, the sound system, word formation, syntactic structure, and meaning-making character was historically formed by the Cape Dutch language used, mixed in with phonological, lexical variations from Arabic, Low and High Portuguese, Bahasa Malay, Bahasa means language, and Khoi and San languages in the periods 1600s to 1700s. There's a very close link to the words awefe, to give good help, and the word we, which leads you to the word awe. There is that influence. And of course, we know that it was later influenced by English and then standard Afrikaans, and gradually marginalized. That's what we learned from the historical archives, and we are still learning a lot. Over the last few years, it's been mentioned, and I think Adam will agree, has upended our lives. We are happy to come at the end of it. We've learned a lot about the codification education process of Kaaps. And I'm very grateful for all the compilers who were part of it. I mentioned their names before. The important part that we've learned from the dictionary is that Kaaps is extremely complex. I was saying on the radio, LSP the other day, we were working or setting down the definition for our way, and then youngster CPT comes up with a song, Our Way, with a question mark in between them. We can't deal with that. It just complicates lives. And Ashburn Arendt's writing in his thesis project, Poppa AC, Pinka Manka Pinka Ponki. How do you describe writing down? But we also understood that where others were focused only on nouns and verbs, we were interested in how the words that actually glue together the second structure of Kaaps could teach us about how we should describe Kaaps. Because the writers of the school wants to know how to write the Kaaps. Because they can't understand why am I being marked down when I write N. I know it's N-D. So the teachers here know what I'm talking about. So that was the main thrust of the dictionary project, to help the kids in school perform better academically. We understand that our has raised the prestige and there's been significant corporate development. I'm looking forward to reading the Bible in Kaaps that is currently being translated by the Funkster Church Group. So yes, we clap for them. And we've also been asked to develop spell checkers, popular Wikipedia pages, translation models, develop that. That takes money. But we made advances with the dictionary because artists have been asked, where's the dictionary? Folks have been asking, where's the grammar guide? Can you teach us how to write? What are the rules? Bilingual learning materials have been developed by my colleague, Dr. Robin Tyler, together with a large group of teachers and writers. But, what about higher education? What about university? What about scientific scholarship? I remember when we first started the dictionary, they said there's no scholarship on Kaaps. And then I said, hold my beer. There's a lot now, a lot. And we want to do far more. So I'm grateful to the Kaaps Dictionary Editorial Board, to the members, the managing editors, Hilda Hood, Adam was there as well. Adam is always there. To Senator Kibiru, Kanvok, Emil, Sakil, Tyron, Robin, Ejimaro, Tara Lee, Carla, I see you there somewhere. And then also Correa Fredericks, where's Correa? Here. I just want to say a very interesting fact about Correa. I was the Adam Small lecturer, and Correa stood up and asked me a question, and then afterwards kept my attention for more than 20 minutes. And I think after that, I was sold on what she could bring to the project. Tangible created this beautiful cover, and the cover speaks about the journey of Kaaps. And by the way, I had to feed the kids on this project all the time. So you see a lot of pictures of food. If you look at the front bottom part, the dictionary cover as what they look like Muslim figures. They are the Mardeka ancestors of Kaaps who came here in the 1600s. And of course there's a block of flats with this on it, these discs. It's bilingual, and you can read it one from left to right, but not from right to left. So we are giving you access to Kaaps. We don't need access to the other languages because we know it's in our repertoire. But what about the grammar? This is the cover of the grammar that will come out next year. We are planning and working hard on it. One of the studies that we reviewed indicated that the learners on this school want to be taught how to read in Kaaps, but also how to write in Kaaps. So we hope to provide this resource to teachers and everybody who wants to know how to write in Kaaps. I'm grateful to everybody who is focusing on including Kaaps at the basic education level, but also at the higher education institutional level. And what we always emphasized was that in order to finally break the stereotypical view or the numerical view of multilingualism of Kaaps speakers, one has to really focus on ways of including speakers, such speakers, in these what we call controlling domains. Because that's where language is controlled. So in educational context, we started out, and I think Robert will agree, we have 3 projects called Orse Power, which was very controversial, Stel Op. Me, it's just like, I'm not going to show you this. You know what I mean? But then we landed on Orse Science. And I'm extremely grateful to Robin for spearheading this project, because currently it's being tested out in a grade 6 classroom with permission from parents. It's downloadable from online and it's bilingual. So what it brings to the classroom is exactly the sort of social approach to multilingualism and bilingualism that we have been advocating. And in real time allows you to see the acts of linguistic citizenship taking place. So we hope that the marks will improve, and these are some of the teachers working with them. And some of them will identify themselves with themselves. That's at the basic education level, and we need to do more. But what about higher education? UCT has revised its language policy, and amongst its course Afrikaaps in English, what do you see? Kaaps. So UCT here is a bellwether for advancing not only official languages in this province, but also in recognizing, actually implementing linguistic justice for the historically marginalized speakers. And I think it's a moment for Kaaps speakers. Maybe they don't know about it, and they need to be taught about this revised language policy. But hopefully one day when the speakers of Kaaps go to UCT, visit UCT, there will be signage in Kaaps. There will be curriculum materials in Kaaps. It can be done because we have the expertise. So this is an especially proud moment for us in this short space of time. BWC is applying his mind. Okay, I thought for a long time we talked about this and at symposia, and we thought that oftentimes as academics we produce particular knowledge that maybe asks the wrong questions about speakers, about their language, about their multilingualism. And we thought long and hard about this, that in order to chart alternative forms of knowledge about multilingualism, and not just a social approach to multilingualism, maybe we should set up a society that will take care of developing or advancing that knowledge. This is where the Society for the Advancement of Kaaps comes in. And I want to thank the executive members, especially my co-chair person, Theo Rodriguez. We talk on the phone every day, how to advance Kaaps through scientific scholarship. But also all the members here. There's Adam again. But we also are producing our own journal. And notice how we spell journal. I think it's really nice. I think it's an accurate expression of it. We have our first special issue currently under review, and we are planning our second issue. And what we are focusing on here is not only Kaaps only, but also other minoritized languages, other historically marginalized languages. Because I think it's important for us to sustain scholarship that really captures the lived experiences, lived multilingual experiences of these speakers. Okay, before I lose my voice. I think through this academic journey, and it has been a really confronting couple of days, especially when I heard the amount of people attending. I thought, who's going to pay for the food? But I think my students have always challenged me to think about, language and multilingualism differently. I'm always thinking to myself that I'm probably the smartest students, thinking of either the craziest things or the smartest things that I'm not capturing, because maybe it's too abstract. And sometimes I think maybe I should have thought about that, and then just help them to think about it further. So I'm really grateful for you who are here, for those of you watching online, my students. Thank you for challenging me to become a better teacher as well, a better lecturer, and a better researcher. My colleagues in the linguistics department, they've always been one of the best. I mean, we are in the best department. I'm sorry to say this. In the country, so there's no way to even doubt that. And I've always had a sort of experience of collegiality of it, and I'm very grateful. My colleagues in the CMBR on this side, I always tell them that they're probably a bunch of neo-Marxists I'm working with because they're radical thinking. Every day, it's a struggle, but I'm very grateful to struggle with them, thinking about multilingualism. And so I'm very grateful to have a job. but to also come into the university, because this university was once a complicated place. It was built to discipline other people initially. And the reason why it's so cold sometimes is it was a farm, and sometimes you cannot think about multilingualism without escaping the fact that it's underpaid flats. So how can you not think about the historically marginalized? Because it's everywhere. It's literally around you. So I'm very grateful for my colleagues, and tomorrow when I come back to work, so please tell Rika I want a third cup of coffee. You should soften that too. I think my extended family was always interested in my cousins. They've always given me a love, always given me a distance, never bothered me. And that always bothered me. But I'm very grateful to them, and we've grown close to this time. My family-in-law accepted me when I married my wife. On day one, when I proposed, my father said, towards the end of that, my brother-in-law also, my sister-in-law, for accepting me into the family. I think my family, growing up in the neighbors, my brothers especially, we have a huge respect for each other. And I think that respect has sustained us throughout my academic journey. And so I'm extremely grateful to them for just being there and always sort of just checking up on me. I might not do the same because I'm too busy sometimes, but I do say sorry sometimes. And my mother, this woman, Manaling, just bringing up 4 kids, 4 boys. My mother used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and I think to myself, I'm going to go back to sleep. And then I had to do it. And I thought, sure, now I understand the always taken that with me. So all the time, coming into the office early, sometimes leaving late. I used to work very hard because I used to think that I didn't have a choice in the matter. But I think my mother taught me the value of work. You know, say, look, if you work hard, you're going to achieve, you know, what you want to have in life. So I really appreciate that, you know, a lot. My wife, my wife, she's also just a superstar. But actually, watch what I say. After the session, I'm very proud of her because, you know, when I did my PhD, she supported me throughout the journey. And then when I was done and I was appointed here for the first time on a permanent basis, I said, okay, now we are going to focus on you. She graduated with her PGCE and honors at the same time in 2018. And in 2 weeks' time, she's going to graduate her master's cum laude. Master William, thank you for enriching our lives. He's just a bundle of joy, and you know, here he's playing with the big kids because he refuses to go to the small kids and the press. And he's always in my study. Here he's putting down Jan van Riebeeck's diaries.